welcome to another weekly update. I hope you're doing well. I must work on how to do that transition without cutting off the sound. It annoys me every single week that I do it. And I leave it later and later to get more of the sound, and then it just looks like a black box when the video shows up and I start talking. Never mind, I'm aware of it. It's kind of low down on the list of things to look at. It's one of those things. If somebody gave me 2 weeks and be like, do no work, just fix all the little things, that would be on that list. Anyway, interesting things to talk about this week. I hope you've had a good week. I was worrying post sort of Christmas into New Year. I was worrying a little bit about what the news cycle would look like for doing these weekly updates through 2024, just because so much of it is going to be focused on Copilot. I think that's kind of a given, but there's going to be an amount of delivery that needs to happen, and there's going to be an awful lot of hype, and separating those two things out is going to be tricky. I've tried to pick things this week actually that don't have that much to do with Copilot, because I feel like we have enough Copilot news going on in other places. And for developers, the story is pretty settled. I think we know what we need to do right now. It's build extensions, they can become Copilot plugins, and it's use connectors to get data into Microsoft 365 and feed that Copilot machine. So I'm going to look elsewhere, and I was pleased. My heart was gladdened to find areas of Microsoft which are still continuing to iterate and develop and do things that are not necessarily to do with Copilot. And I think that's really important. I really hope Microsoft as a big entity don't lose sight of the fact that Copilot is just going to become commodity soon. And then all the other stuff, don't forget all the other stuff because it's super important. On other things that I think are really cool and happening in this space at the moment, let's talk about a new release for Dev Proxy. So this is something that Waldeck and Gary and their team, or maybe just them, I don't know, are churning out. And there's another version. Dev Proxy is now maturing into something really interesting because they've solved their primary problem. And they are now going around solving tangential problems in this area. And that's really cool to see and really useful for developers as well. So they've got a new version, 0.14, which has got some really cool new things in it. The first of which is combating a real problem. So rate limiting with mocks. So if you want to test your rate limiting, it's really hard to do so without burning all your credits or burning all your goodwill or burning all of your request limits with Microsoft. So in a world where you can get charged for this stuff now, that's even more important. So in this version, you can mock some of this stuff, which is really cool. So Dev Proxy will simulate some rate limiting for you. It will mock the responses. Amazing. I think this is really, really cool. The only thing that worries me slightly about this is that Graph has a tendency to make its stuff up and change it sometimes on the back end because it's a big, complicated beast. I hope the Dev Proxy can keep up with that. If anybody can do it, Gary and Waldeck can, because they're inside Microsoft. They have that inside track to the Graph team. They can go and figure out exactly what the responses are going to be and mock them. So I think this is really cool. I'm glad it's here. They do some other cool stuff as well. Again, this is it's a little bit AI, but this is them, solving problems outside their primary objective, which is really cool. Which is easily generating an OpenAI spec for API. Of course, Dev Proxy kind of sits in there and it can see all the requests that you're making. And so it knows quite a lot about your API. So based on what it's figured out, it will generate an OpenAPI spec for you. It might not be perfect, but it's a great start. So this is really cool. There's some other things in here as well. Simulating APIs. Again, you can sort of mock, you can use the Dev Proxy to quickly mock up some APIs. I would use this a lot. I'm going to start using this. This is something I do and a problem I have sometimes. You're working with another service or another company and they're building their stuff whilst you're building your stuff, and then you're going to sync at some point. The first thing we tend to do is agree on, the shape of the API. And so being able to mock something up for both sides to use, I think is brilliant. Very, very cool. And so there's some other things as well around presets, around macOS support, blah, blah, blah. They've just kind of been rattling through. I'm not sure either of them took Christmas off, to be honest. So I think this is really cool. Good to see. Again, if you've not used the Dev Proxy yet, you need to dig into it. You need to figure it out, because with the stuff that's in it now, it almost certainly could enhance your workflow experience as a developer. All right, next thing. If you are a developer and you're an Azure Communication Services developer, then that team, the Azure Communication Services team, they want to hear from you. They've got a survey running, some feedback. They want to hear insights and feedback on what they're doing and what they think, or what you think that they could do better in 2024. It's specifically designed for developers, okay? So anyone who's built something, even if that something is just a demo or a sample, they want to hear from you. So there's a survey to go fill in. I'll put a link to that in the notes. Please fill it out. Microsoft do like to ask people for feedback. I don't know how much feedback they get, but I think it's really important that we do give them the feedback when they ask for it, because otherwise, legitimately, we can't really moan about stuff, can we? If we don't give them the feedback when they ask for it, then we can't really be grumpy when things don't go our own way. I'm not sure that means we can be grumpy if we do the feedback and things still don't go our own way, but we definitely can't be grumpy if we don't do the feedback. All right. Finally, and this is an interesting one, just because it's so important, but so relatively, boring is the wrong word, but like pedestrian, I suppose, that it's kind of refreshing. There's no Copilot in this blog post at all. This is a best practice guide for those designing add-ins, Word, Excel, PowerPoint add-ins in Microsoft 365. This is nice. This is a reminder that stuff is still important. And so I think that's good. I know the Copilot stuff is important too, but like this, there's people, hundreds and thousands of people using and building Copilot, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Office add-ins up and down the country, up and down the world. And so this is a good guide. This best practice guide for, first of all, how you name them, giving them nice detailed descriptions, doing a good onboarding experience, choosing your business model, the monetization tier. That's changed quite a lot recently, so it's worth kind of figuring out. And then a bit of a nugget right at the bottom is there's some links to some samples, some sample apps, sample add-ins that you can use to kind of get started with your kind of journey of building 365 apps. So if you're looking for something a little bit different and a little bit refreshing from the Copilot storyline, then go check that out. It's a nice kind of refreshing blog post. Just to remind us that, it's also important to build add-ins for users wherever they're at, whether that's in Copilot, and whether Copilot, it might be that, over the next few years, Copilot becomes the primary user interface for Office apps. I'm not sure about that. I feel like it's still going to be super important to have a kind of point and click UI, a graphical user interface, if you like, for Office applications. Therefore, a really big part of that is going to be add-ins, and good add-ins. And so it's important to develop. I think it's important to Microsoft that developers focus on making high quality add-ins. All right, rant over. That's everything for me this week. I hope you have a good week, whatever it is you're doing. And I will speak to you again next time.